This week we bring you a special episode of Quality Digest Live from Hexagon Metrology's beautiful offices here in North Kingstown, Rhode Island.
That's right. We'll be talking testing and measurement with Hexagon team, plus a lot more when we come back. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for April 13th, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
Yes, you are, and I'm Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. Well, Dirk, I'll let you take it away and lead us into this wonderful special show of Quality Digest.
All right. Live. Well, you know, as you mentioned at the top of the show, we're coming to you today from Hexagon Metrology's North American headquarters. At this location, Hexagon has a state-of-the-art precision center, a climate-controlled research and development wing, an ISO 17025 certified calibration lab, and assembly facilities where new and refurbished metrology equipment roll off the line on a regular basis. More on the refurbished equipment when we come back. And you know, yesterday we broadcast our latest episode of TechnorazziLIVE from this very spot, highlighting the launch of Hexagon's brand new shop floor CMM, the Brown & Sharpe SF, along with a new multi-sensor measuring machine, the OPTIV Classic. We also looked at Hexagon's PCDMA software platform for vision systems. So what you're watching right now are clips from yesterday's show on the screen. Now, if you missed the live event, don't worry, the on-demand version is available on our website, and you can view it anytime by clicking on the link just below the player page here, or by visiting the videos tab at the top of our homepage.
That's right. Now that was great. It was a very fun and action-packed TechnorazziLIVE. Well, it always is when we're here with Hexagon. We've done several of them, and it was really a great show. So when you get a chance, take a few moments and definitely check out the event if you happen to missed it yesterday. Okay, well, we're going to return to the theme later in the show. We have a lot on the show about metrology. We're going to return to that later, but for now, let's dive into some of the stories that we covered this week in Quality Digest. First up, a news item that appeared in Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily: help design the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation. The title of this piece, which came to us from NIST, obviously, is rather self-explanatory. That's right, you and all of you out there can join together and help nurture great new ideas within the manufacturing sector. How? Well, you can start by attending the first in a series of regional workshops on this topic. This kickoff meeting will occur on April 25th at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI, in Troy, New York. This gathering, titled Designing for Impact 1, Workshop on Building the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation, is being organized by the Advanced Manufacturing National Program Office and is hosted by NIST. The purpose of the workshop, as well as the organization itself, is to encourage innovation and address strategic gaps in the U.S. system of manufacturing and innovation. Essentially, create an atmosphere in which implementation as well as ideas are encouraged. Now, this is a terrific cause, and it's one of which we at Quality Digest, of course, wholeheartedly support. If you'd like more information on how to participate in this workshop, just below the player page, you'll see a link where you can click on that and you can find out all about it. So check that out.
That's right. You know, and actually, before we get to my story, we'll say that we just finished up an interview here that is actually somewhat related to this. I just had an interview with Chris Vasconcelos, I think, of Northeastern Tech. And he's an instructor there, and part of what he was talking about is kind of the building into the manufacturing sector with people who are skilled in metrology and have an interest and a desire to get an associate's degree in mechanical engineering technology. And there's a lot going on in education in that regard, and actually kind of feeding into this whole thing. And there's a lot going on in terms of educational institutions as well as industry supporting this. So
sure, we talk about it all the time, and I know that we're going to be having that interview with Chris. It'll be in an upcoming episode of Profiles in Quality, so you can look out for that as the case comes soon.
Right. Okay. Well, we also had a somewhat related article that we ran this week from one of our own editors, Ryan Day. This feature was Global Implications of Reshoring in America, and it ran in Wednesday's issue of QDD. Now, if you don't know him, Ryan is both one of our editors and our web guy. And Ryan has a Gomer Pyle USMC meets Ted Nugent thing kind of going.
We struggled to figure out exactly what it would be.
How do you label Ryan? I think the Ted Nugent thing, because Ryan loves guns too, and yeah, you know Ted Nugent does if you know anything about Ted Nugent. So what you gotta love about Ryan is that he has opinions, passions, and perspective.
Yeah.
All of which he backs up with some well thought out writing. His perspectives are very interesting, by the way. It really makes me think, even though I don't always agree with him. So this topic, reshoring, is one that brings out a lot of passion in folks, and Ryan's take on it here is rather unique. In short, he believes that reshoring is good for the world. And by reshoring, he means not necessarily bringing manufacturing jobs to the United States alone, but keeping manufacturing as close as possible to the customer base, wherever those customers happen to be. And it makes sense. I mean, it all comes down to the supply chain, right? Supply chains are international in nature, and they're lengthy and risky. They're based on push as opposed to pull. Local supply chains enable just-in-time manufacturing, which result in greater stability and lower overhead. I mean, this makes a lot of sense,
sure
right?
Does.
He's just took it a little bit of a step further.
So far, he's on ground that most people are going to agree with.
Exactly.
The problem is that most people interpret that to mean reshoring, bring all the jobs here to America.
Right.
He takes it a little further.
He takes it a little further. So his bottom line is, reshoring is a great idea, but not necessarily if you're talking about establishing supply chains that are just as long, if not longer, than they were before. So, I mean, so what he's saying, and he goes into it in the article, it's like, well, if the United States should be reshoring, well then maybe China should be reshoring, and you know, everybody else should be reshoring, because if it applies to us, doesn't it apply to them as well?
The thing that I love about Ryan is every article that he writes, he takes the point to the logical conclusion.
To the logic, which may not always make sense, but I'm not sure he's wrong in this case.
Well, if you look at it from a just-in-time perspective, if you really truly want to embrace lean manufacturing, one of the principles of that, whether it came from Toyota or Ford, is have the shortest possible supply chain.
Right.
You know, build local, buy local. Right. That's really where you want to get to on this. So the idea that people talk about now with reshoring is the idea that they want to bring jobs back to America. In other words, an American manufacturing, an American consumer base. Companies that sell to America are now, and maybe they're American companies, but they have manufacturing outlets in China, let's say, as an example. And they have to ship that back now to the United States. That doesn't make sense. So the reshoring that people mostly talk about is, well, let's have those manufacturing jobs back here in America, so that you know, it's an American-made company, it manufactures in America, and it sells to Americans. But the flip side of that is, what about all those Chinese companies, that are or the American companies that are selling to China, right? I mean, American companies are selling stuff to China or India or wherever, or automobiles or whatever. So the flip side of that is, well, those plants should be in those countries too,
right?
Because of the same idea.
Yeah. So
it's kind of a little bit of a risky proposition if you think about it from that perspective.
Yeah. It's kind of, we want to reshore because we want to bring those jobs back, but we also don't want people that are manufacturing. And there are a lot of industries that manufacture here, not China, I don't think, but there are a lot of industries that do manufacture in the United States for one reason or the other.
Sure.
If they were to reshore, I mean, suppose Toyota and Honda were to pull their plants out and say, hey, reshoring sounds good.
Right, exactly right.
Okay. Although, the one point he's missing, and this actually was a point that's, strangely enough, we talked about on TechnorazziLIVE yesterday, is a lot of times what you're talking about is, in the case we talked about yesterday, there's a product, one of their, Hexagon's new product is the OPTIV Classic. And that is typically built in Switzerland, but they're building them in the United States, not because OPTIV or that division of Brown and Sharpe is an American company. It isn't. It's based back there, but by bringing it here, they can manufacture the OPTIV here. It's closer to the North American market. Therefore, the shipping time is drastically cut. The cost of the product is made lower because you don't have to pay the shipping costs and duties and that sort of thing, right? So it makes sense. But if they were to reshore, then obviously, well, we wouldn't be manufacturing the OPTIV here. Those jobs that it generated here in Rhode Island would go away. So you kind of back it all off, and now maybe it doesn't make sense. But beside the point, I liked what he did with it. I liked that he took the ideas. Sometimes we get so US-centric, and we have these ideas, and they make sense, and they make sense for us. But if they make sense for us, you've got to think, well, do they really make sense as a whole if you apply them in other regions of the world? I mean, do you really want to do this across the board?
My problem with reshoring, if I had, I mean, reshoring is great in theory. My problem with reshoring is it strikes me as a turn back the clock. I mean, the cat's out of the bag somewhat.
Right.
We have a very, very deeply enmeshed and interlaced international supply chain and distribution network, and customer base. All of us do. Everybody does who's in the market, in any market. To try to unspool that and say, well, you know, I'm serving an American market, so I've got to manufacture here. It may make sense for some. It may not make sense for others. Yeah. It's a case-by-case basis. But what I liked about what Ryan did, again, is he took it to the logical conclusion, and it kind of became, does the emperor have any clothes, kind of an argument here. You know, it's like, well, reshoring is great, but wait a minute, what does it mean for other countries as manufacturing?
In the end, what you've got to look at, and I think what most manufacturers are looking at, regardless of perhaps what they say, is what makes financial sense. If it makes sense, if it makes financial sense for you to be manufacturing in China, well, you're most likely going to do that. If you get to a point where it makes sense to manufacture in the US, well, more than likely you're going to do that because you want to bring the jobs home. Well, maybe that's part of the reason, but most likely the reason you're doing it, I mean, if everybody's really honest, it's because it makes more financial sense now to bring it back.
That's what
in the end, what you're talking about.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, let's get back to speaking about metrology now, because there was an interesting thing that we chatted about a little bit yesterday on TechnorazziLIVE, and then that we're going to get to now and a little deeper, was this idea of refurbishing.
Right.
And when we had our little tour here of the plant, we saw some of Hexagon's refurbishing actions. We heard a little bit about how that comes to the fore. Yeah. Very interesting. And we heard about what Hexagon's doing with refurbishing and making, you know, some not so pretty raw materials usable again and very, very pretty going forward.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's talk about refurbishing a little bit. Any of you who have owned a CMM know that CMMs last basically forever. I mean, they're granite and steel, and you know, mechanically they're pretty much like rocks, and they're going to last forever. So the question is, when does it make sense to buy a refurbished machine? Would you want to buy a refurbished machine? And we have an expert here from Hexagon Metrology who's going to tell us all about refurbishing, and this is Jim Flanagan. Jim.
Nice to meet you, Dick.
And what is your title here?
I'm Program Manager for Hexagon Metrology Services.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to throw the question out there. Why would you buy basically an old machine that's been prettied up?
Well, I'll go back to what you said about what they're made of. They're made of granite and steel, but that granite and steel has to interact and move together with it. It's got air bearings, it's got mechanical components that fail. Even though, you know, we're a victim of our own success, they last a long time, you know, they do wear out. So we provide value by bringing those machines in here. We buy them in the open market. We tear them down right to the bottom and build them back up with all new components.
Okay, and we've got an example here of, I'm assuming these are two of the same machine?
This is before, and this is after.
And what are we looking at here?
Okay, this is a Microval PFX 454.
Okay.
It's a machine that was produced through the 80s and 90s.
And this particular machine is vintage?
This particular machine is like early 90s.
Early 90s, so 90s. Maybe 20 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And this is as it is?
This actually is not as bad as what we usually see.
This is a clean one.
Exactly. But what I've done is I've opened the hood, so to speak.
Okay.
And just so you could see some of the things inside, one of the main things that happens with CMMs, all CMMs, is airlines get brittle, they get oily, bad air supply. So what happens is when we rebuild them, a whole new network of airlines is inputted. Okay. So you can see that, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it's very yellowed and oily.
Yep, yeah, I see it there. Yep.
And on the new one, it's nice and clear.
Okay.
And free.
So basically what you're saying is that mechanically, I mean, obviously the granite's granite, that probably hasn't changed at all. The steel structure is probably fine.
The basic frame is a good starting point. And we build it up from there.
So what you're doing basically is ripping the guts out, I'm assuming the electronics, like you said, the hoses.
All new cabling, all new airlines, air bearings are replaced. The whole works.
Encoders and scales?
Encoders and scales, yes.
Okay. So once you go through and do this, do you end up with a machine that's exactly the same as the old machine, or even better?
Actually, even better.
Okay.
Especially with this particular model right here. This particular model had Rolex drives. And the reason why they had Rolex drives was they wanted to be able to have it manual as well as automatic, DCC. Okay. But our market research found that not many customers use the manual aspect of the machine.
Okay.
And that happened to be a troublesome part of the component. So what we did was we redesigned it such as it's like the global, the global image or the global advantage. And we put belt drives as opposed to Rolex drives.
Okay.
So it's an improvement. Improvement in performance, improvement in positioning, all the way around. Speed, it makes it a little bit faster.
Okay.
So yeah, we not only bring it back to life, but we improve it.
All right. Now, why would somebody buy? Why would they buy like a refurbished of one of these as opposed to just buying a new one? I mean, from what I understand, there's not a big difference in cost.
It's usually 25 to 30% lower than a new machine.
Oh, so, okay, so it is a bit. Okay.
And a lot of our customers that come to our pre-owned business won't even consider a new machine.
Really?
Which is funny because you get a lot of people that are just starting into the business. You'll have small job shops that they won't even look at new.
Okay.
They'll just look for pre-owned or look for used, and that's the key.
Okay.
We have pre-owned rebuilt by the OEM. They're looking for used.
Okay.
So there's a different connotation there because ours is we back it just like a new machine.
Well, yeah, so warranty and all that stays the same.
It's just like a new machine.
It's like a new machine. It's a 25% less, or maybe.
No. It's actually, if there's a 1-year warranty on a new machine, there's a 1-year warranty on our pre-owned.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the cost is about 25%.
Yeah,
right?
generally,
around in that
generally
area.
20 to 25%.
Okay. So there's definitely some savings to.
There's value.
Value in there. Okay.
And not only that, when it comes to a pre-owned CMM that you're buying from Hexagon, you're not only buying that CMM from us, you're buying our support network. Whereas if you buy a CMM used, you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
It may look good when you look out here like this, but then when you get under the hood, you've got problems.
So is it ever the case where somebody buys an old CMM, off of off eBay or something, and then sends it to you?
Absolutely.
Does that make any?
What usually happens is they buy it on eBay, and they have problems with it.
Okay.
And then they have to call us, and then we come in there, and it's costing them actually more than if they came to us in the first place.
So basically, what you're saying is rather than go to eBay, is just
come to us.
Come to us and say, I'm just looking for a refurbished, whatever.
Exactly.
Is it often where they're looking for, maybe they're just familiar with a particular model and they're getting refurbished just because they don't want to have to train people up on something?
Yeah, what happens is we have customers that have had PFXs, Excels, the old legacy equipment that's still out there. They love it. Yeah. They want another one. And they just call us up and they say, do you have any refurbished Excels that we could buy? Because they just love it.
What about the software now? I mean, these older machines are probably running ancient software. I mean, does that get all?
Yeah, a lot of these customers are using legacy software, and that they come to us, and we get them the PC DEMIS and get them up to the current level of metrology software at the same time.
And so that license is included. The PC DEMIS license is included with the.
That's another point. That's a good point because when you buy a used machine on the open market like that, the license agreement requires that you update that license because you're not the owner anymore.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
So even if you got a machine that was fully functioning, I mean, technically...
Yeah. The PC DEMIS end user license requires that you come to Hexagon and become the registered owner of that software.
So you'd have to pay for the license again. Yeah. So on top of
So if you come to us, you get that.
Okay, I got it. Show us a little bit about some. I see we've got some gunky parts stacked up here. These are parts of older machines.
Yeah,
this one, or
these are some components from the same model machine. As you can see, I mean, they're covered with coolant. They're covered with grease. You could buy this on the open market and not even know that you're getting this, and then you find out that you bought a lemon. Yeah. And you're stuck, and then you have to come to us, and it costs you more. Yeah. If you come to us in the first place, we can get you into a good running CMM for a good value price with the same factory back. Okay.
And just pointing, I'm just comparing the two. So I'm saying, well, looks like you've repainted it. It's gotten all new stickers. It's obviously been cleaned inside and out.
It gets
like you said, all new hoses.
Totally taken apart. Okay. All new hoses. It gets fresh paint, all new bearings, new belt drives, as opposed to these drives here.
And how long does it take to turn one of these around?
We could generally turn one of these around in 4 to 5 weeks.
That's not bad. So do you do it kind of on order where somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a PFX, and then you go out and find one?
We actually were searching the market all the time for CMMs.
Okay, so you got a warehouse of just old junky CMMs.
Yeah, well, we have an outside warehouse, and I have a person that works for me specifically that goes out to auction houses and out to private facilities trying to obtain CMMs.
And then, so somebody calls up, you happen to have it, and then you're saying 4 to 6 weeks turnaround, is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, that's generally the turnaround.
Okay, well that's interesting. So, okay, well Jim, thanks for telling us about refurbished CMMs. Good. I appreciate you taking the time on that.
Okay, great.
All right, okay, well, there you go.
Hey, great Tech Corner, thanks Jim.
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go. Great Tech Corner.
Refurbished CMMs.
Yeah, that's right. Great stuff.
You know, it's been fun. I mean, I know you're going to probably talk about this a little bit, but you know, we got to cover a lot of stuff while we're out here. So.
We covered a lot of stuff. It's been a really great couple of days here at Hexagon in North Kingston. You know, we saw a lot of things. We had a great Tech Corner. We had a great TechnorazziLIVE yesterday.
That was fun.
Tech Corner again today, and of course we want to thank Hexagon Metrology for being wonderful hosts to us. As many of you know, maybe many of you don't know, in early June, Hexagon will be hosting a user conference, and now this is a user conference really unlike any other. We saw it ourselves firsthand.
It's more like
last
a rock
year.
concert.
Exactly right. It's a very big event. In fact, calling it a user conference really doesn't do it justice at all. I consider it an in-gathering of a community, and an opportunity to learn and to exchange ideas and really to dream in the future a little bit. In fact,
by the way, it's a user conference with about, I think Bill said 3,000 people. So it's a big user conference.
A lot of users. The theme of the event in 2012 is think forward, and if you attend, that's certainly what you're going to be doing. You're going to be doing a lot of thinking about what's coming up both during the event and afterwards. Now, the show occurs June 4th through 7th, and as if you needed another reason to attend,
it's in Las Vegas.
It's in Las Vegas, baby. Dirk and I and the rest of our QEDL team will be there providing live coverage, so stop by, say hi to us, and check us out doing our thing live right there on site. Now, for more information on the event, just click on the banner below, or if you're watching on demand, just to the right of the player right here and check it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks for joining us for Quality Digest Live, and all I can say is we need to get some of these chairs.
Need these, right? Oh boy.
These things are, maybe we can put them on the plane with us on the way back.
Maybe we can.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us. We will be back next week, hopefully. We may not be back next week. We'll see what happens. We've got to get our equipment here from Rhode Island back to California. And if it doesn't make it in time, well, you'll have a day off,
or a repeat, like Laverne.
Like
Laverne and Shirley.
You may see a rerun.
Happy Days.
That's
Joni
right.
Loves Chachi. It'd be great. So check it out.
So in any case, check back in next Friday. Hopefully we'll be there, and if we are, we'll see you.
See you then.
So long.
Bye.